Hi students, this lecture video is from one of the last chapters in this unit from, I just lost my page number, my finger slipped right out. One of the last units from Everyday Women's and Gender Studies Introductory Concepts. Give me just a brief second here while I pull up the page number one more time. This is the lecture video dropping things. This is the lecture video from Future for Whom, Billboard Liberation and Passing On of that Billboard Liberation. This is written by Allison Kafer. So as I mentioned, it's part of the unit on representations. You will in the future read Jameson's chapter on how pop culture constructs sexuality, or maybe you've already read it. It's also from this unit on representations. I mentioned that representations argue that images, ideas, words we encounter, and the meanings of those on an everyday basis are mediated through various cultural forms. So journalism, television, photography, as well as through our own experiences, understandings, and investments in the world around us. So rethinking those representations or representing them, or perhaps coming to them with a critical, analytical eye for the first time, is the result of a process of struggling over what meaning is and how do we come to know what we know about these representations and the meanings that they offer us. None of us stand outside of the operations of meaning making, but how meaning is made is very much mediated by our own identities, our own relationships to power and difference, for example. So this chapter on A Future for Whom, Passing on Billboard Liberation, Allison Kafer alerts readers to the taken for granted assumptions embedded in billboards produced by the Foundation for a Better Life. The Foundation's implicit message throughout the dozens of highly visible billboards, many depicting people with disabilities, is that people overcome adversity by accepting and taking a personal responsibility and demonstrating strength of character. Those individual characteristics guarantee a better future for all. What is obscured there, as Kafer points out in this chapter, are the collective efforts and outcomes of the disability rights movement, recent civil rights legislation, and the network of family and care workers, in short, entire communities that support the lone individuals depicted in those billboards. Ultimately, the billboards reinforce the idea that disability can, and perhaps even should, be overcome and depoliticized in the situations of people living with adversity. And we know that cannot be overcome by individual efforts alone, right? If you haven't taken a look at the discussion board post for this learning module 2, I share a personal memory I have of my grandfather, where he tells me that if I want something, I just have to work hard to achieve it, in the extent to which an ideology of meritocracy is really pervasive, not just in my own individual life, would say the relationship I have with my grandfather, but also really pervasive in US culture and society. If you work hard enough, you can achieve something. You can, if you do that labor, the advantages and sort of benefits of it will come your way, right? Here in this chapter, Allison Kafer really illuminates the extent to which overcoming injustice can't always solely be the result of personal responsibility and demonstrating strength of character. It's also a collective effort by the disability rights movement, civil rights legislation, networks of family members and caregivers, right? I again want to re-emphasize this point. Ultimately, the billboards that she discusses here in this chapter where she is doing this critical reading analysis of A Foundation for Better Life, those billboards both reinforce the idea that disability can and should be overcome and depoliticize the situations of people living with adversity that cannot be overcome by individual effort alone. So I have a series I have a series of questions for reflection here. They are included in your Points to Ponder Google document for the end of Learning Module 2. How is disability represented as a personal problem in popular culture? What are the political impacts of a focus on individual triumph that otherwise obscures the contributions of communities of people, networks, and other institutional and structural supports? And finally, how would our culture change if people understood themselves to be only temporarily able-bodied? That is, accepting the fact that all of us at any given moment in our lives, and certainly if we live long enough, will fit in the identity category of disabled. I encourage you to collaboratively respond to these points to ponder. And again, that Google document is located at the very end, the conclusion of Learning Module 2.